Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Let's agree on something very important. Nothing can make a Real Madrid fan as happy as the return of their players. Honestly, I can't sum up everything that has happened at Real Madrid and the effectiveness and joy of a Real Madrid fan at the return of Valverde. Not just Vinicius Jr. as well, and the level he's showing, but I really want to start the episode and talk a lot about Valverde at the beginning. Of course, let me remind you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as your support for the episode and the channel, because some people forget. And let's mention that Real Madrid beat Benfica or qualified at the expense of Benfica. And logically, it was inevitable that Real Madrid would be with us and continue with us in the Champions League, regardless of whether they face Sporting English Bona or Manchester City. If they face Sporting English Bona, then it's Real Madrid versus Sporting English Bona. It will still be better than Real Madrid versus Benfica or Benfica versus Sporting English Bona, or if they face Manchester City in the top match of the next round. You never know who Barcelona will get, maybe Paris. Honestly, there are still a lot of strong and exciting matchups to come. That's what's important, everyone. Real Madrid won, and congratulations to their fans. It was logical, as we said, that Real Madrid would advance. But let me get back to the topic. Let's talk about Valverde. Let's look at the ideas the coach, Arbeloa, is playing with, or the general approach that Arbeloa relies on. And today, it was clear that the team is very close to the style that Carlo Ancelotti relies on. One of the most important keys to success for Carlo Ancelotti was, yes, Valverde. Valverde is essential. Real Madrid simply can't play this way, with this approach or these ideas without Valverde. If Valverde isn't at his best, then the team's return to this style coincided with Valverde regaining his form. So you might ask, does Valverde not play well with this approach? It's possible to say that, and it's also possible to say that this approach actually brings out the best in Valverde. You could also talk about the timing. So the improvement in Valverde's performance coincided with the approach that Arbeloa relies on. What is this approach? For example, we didn't see Real Madrid from the start of the match. The match was at home in front of their fans, and the match had a lot of hype, and you've been hyping us up for a week. But we didn't see Real Madrid, for example, start with high pressing. The obsession with scoring the first goal, he was relying on us scoring through transitions. And of course, he did score through transitions. His main concern was to score from transitions. And these are the ideas, may God bless him, that Ancelotti used to rely on at Real Madrid, like in the Atletico Madrid match, with all the hype and the atmosphere at the Bernabeu, and Jaime and everyone making statements, and Carlo Ancelotti making statements, and they created this whole atmosphere and celebrations. But when the match started, Carlo Ancelotti came in and said, no, I want to play for my points. Let's forget about all this hype you're creating for us. Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I criticizing Arbeloa now? No, Arbeloa just wants to get through the season any way he can. If I were in his place, I would play any way possible just to get through the season. As long as I'm winning and achieving positive results with this approach, I want to stick with it. With Professor Sorna, the perspective was completely different. But if he fails with this approach, he will be criticized. However, he succeeded with it. So you look at this approach, Valverde's approach is very important. And in Nice Jr., he's the man of transitions, the number one man when it comes to transitions. The first goal they scored against Benfica, the only goal they scored in the first leg, is almost a copy-paste of the goal they scored today. Today, the goal scored by Vinicius Jr. completely relieved Real Madrid, and so the return of Vinicius Jr. alongside Valverde is significant. When Real Madrid plays with this style, it is very important. What was Valverde's role today on the pitch, in addition to his offensive work and his involvement in the goals? Today, Valverde did everything you could ask from a player. Honestly, he even outdid himself. You saw him today taking on roles that have nothing to do with his usual responsibilities. They're not even his roles. I'm playing in the midfield formation. Okay, today there are 4 of us playing in the midfield, but I'm playing as a winger. I'm pressing and sending in crosses. In the defensive phase, I'm in the middle of the field, and in the attacking phase, I'm in the half space. Even in the attacking phase, I'm actually in the center of the field, recovering balls, intercepting passes, distributing the ball, and I'm the first player to track back. And when Arnold pushes forward, I cover for him. And when Arnold advances, I move into the space and switch positions with him. I even provided an assist. It was a perfect match from Valverde in every aspect. So when you look at this player, mashallah, this is Valverde. I chose him last season, and I'm very sorry, but I didn't go along with the Real Madrid fans who picked Mbappe as the player of the season. I had my own point of view, and there were Real Madrid fans who were upset with me and others who disagreed with me, and that's normal. But I saw that last season, despite Real Madrid's shortcomings. I believe that Valverde was the player of the season for Real Madrid, and the start was shaky with Xabi Alonso, but today we know that Valverde is back, and this is very important, coinciding with the return of Araujo. All right, here Arbeloa needs to wake up. What we said after the Osasuna match, you know your strengths. You can't just say, it's my approach and ideas and that's it. No, let's talk about something else. That some players have improved their level, or their presence in this lineup has improved the performance I'm delivering. For example, having Arnold with Valverde. Valverde has regained his form, and Arnold is delivering an outstanding performance. So today I say having both of them is very important. In any decisive match, in any match that determines fate, especially league matches, because I still insist that Real Madrid must focus on the league, Arnold and Valverde, don't talk to me about rotation. Don't tell me you're sad about Carvajal. Carvajal is a great player, but as the press said, Carvajal isn't even in our plans, and the player isn't going to renew. So let's leave the topic of rotation on the right side for an easy match, a match that's just for the record, a match that's not important. If you want to rotate, fine, but the main player is Arnold. If you want to win, you have to play Arnold on the right side. Of course, today, Arnold had some defensive issues, some problems appeared, and sometimes Arnold wasn't covered properly in certain chances and attacks. But overall, I had a balanced player working on the right side, making transitions, delivering the ball, and was very good. I don't want to talk about the perfect CT or excellent or amazing, but Arnold was very good on the right side. Arnold with Valverde, I'm happy with this duo. Why am I happy with it? Because it's clear that Valverde is comfortable. Despite the many tasks required of Valverde when he plays alongside Arnold, the player is still comfortable. Maybe if another fullback played next to Valverde, some of those tasks would be taken off him. That is, we don't have a defensive gap. We don't have a defensive problem with this fullback. So you, Valverde, you're not required to cover behind him maybe, and you can relax. But there are more duties required from Valverde when he plays alongside Arnold, yet you see that Valverde emerges as the star of the match. Today, Valverde is the man of the match, in my opinion. In the previous match, he was the best Real Madrid player. And when the coach took him off, we were all surprised. We said, "What are you doing? Are you crazy? How could you take him off in the previous match?" He was the best player in the previous match, or at least among the standout players. Therefore, Valverde is comfortable on the right side, alternating with Arnold. And I want to tell you all, the problem is that I'm filming in the hotel. But like the Real Sociedad match, there were perfect exchanges between Arnold and Valverde, with him covering behind him in the first half. And it was clear that Arnold's advance was a problem factor, that Valverde wasn't covering perfectly, but the second half solved the problem. Arbeloa, he told Valverde, advance, okay, but always keep an eye on the space behind Arnold. And maybe in one of the moments when Arnold was in the second half, inside Benfica's penalty area, he lost the ball, and Benfica, they launched a counter-attack. Who committed the tactical foul? Who covered behind Arnold? It was Valverde. We witnessed a great and wonderful match. Let's move on to these two. A very significant improvement for Tchouaméni. Today, Tchouaméni scored a goal, and aside from the goal he scored, he was a warrior on the pitch in midfield. He used to make a mistake with one or two shots, but he is also improving. Xiaomi. There's a Spanish analyst today. Oh, I really don't know. Oh, he's a Spanish journalist. Written between the two banks, or when Tchouaméni scored the goal. His words caught my attention, and he said that Tchouaméni is a good player on a bad team, which is Madrid. Of course, the person who wrote this said at that moment that Tchouaméni seemed like he was a better player than all the other players at Real Madrid. That's his point of view, and you might see it as negative, but if you take it in the first 15 minutes of the match, Tchouaméni really was the best player at Real Madrid, especially when Real Madrid was playing poorly. And here, even if I were the only one in that position, as the sweeper, I am the backbone of the team. If I am at my best, I can step up and relieve the team and relieve Real Madrid. And I can support my team even if they're going through negative or difficult circumstances. All right, now let's shift our focus over to the left side of the pitch. On this left flank, where both Carreras and Vinicius Jr are actively present, you could clearly see that throughout the entire first half, they consistently outperformed Tadic in almost every duel. He completely outperformed him every single time they met, showcasing superior pace and skill. But after he successfully got past him and moved into open space, that's really only natural given the momentum he had built up during those intense moments of the game. Because you can't just leave Vinicius Jr with space to run into, especially since Benfica is positioned in their own half. We're not talking about a counter-attack here, but rather that Benfica dropped back into their own half to defend against a Real Madrid attack. From the far right side, the ball was switched all the way to the far left, reaching Vinicius Jr, who was being closely marked. Vinicius Jr gets past his marker. But after that, we saw that there were 1, 2, 3, even 4 players, but the problem was that the ball wasn't reaching Vinicius Jr enough. As long as Vinicius Jr was outperforming his marker, he got the ball the first time and took a shot, then got it a second time. And when he entered the penalty area, he was causing penalty kicks. At the start of the match, things were moving on that side. The left side was open. Vinicius was outperforming the player in front of him. That's one thing. The second thing is that Vinicius was getting into the penalty area, so it was necessary to switch the ball to that side, to the left side more often. Now, if you look at the heat map of Real Madrid's attacks, you'll find that Real Madrid naturally attacks more from the left side. But for me, I thought there needed to be quicker switches to Vinicius. Jr., not just in counterattacks. In counterattacks, it's well known ABC 1-2-3, pass to Vinicius Jr. multiple times. These are the counterattacks, the runs, and the transitions. But even in organized attacks, Vinicius Jr. should also, you send him the ball so he can provide the solution. That's why we all agree that Real Madrid is very strong and fierce in transitions, because the ball reaches Vinicius Jr. much faster. But in organized attacks, you feel that the ball moves slowly. It doesn't always reach Vinicius, and it doesn't always go to him. And you see that the solution should be with Vinicius Jr. more often. But he is delivering outstanding performances, outplaying defenders, scoring goals, and putting on impressive displays. He scored today. He scored in the Osasuna match. He scored in the first leg against Benfica. And against Sociedad, he played one of his best games. Let's talk, everyone, about 4 matches. Vinicius Jr. has regained his form in them and is coming back, which is very good news for Real Madrid fans. And I repeat, and I stand by my words. It's true that I always say nothing makes Real Madrid fans happier than Valverde's return. But honestly, there is a player whose return to form brings even more joy to Madrid fans, and that's Vinicius Jr. Because Vinicius Jr. is the spark, the movement, the goal, the highlight, the show, the passion. He is the most skillful player on the team, if not one of the most skillful players in Europe. So as a fan, I always feel I love having a skillful player on my team. I love having this player on my team. I love seeing him excel. I love it when he scores. I love it when he stands out. Regarding his level, because today it's true that I have the goal, but I want to focus on the player who gives me that special touch, especially at Real Madrid. Because when we talk about Real Madrid compared to Barcelona, we have Lamine Yamal at Barcelona, so we need Vinicius Jr. to be at his best. The proper comparison is between Lamine Yamal and Vinicius Jr., not Lamine Yamal and Mbappe. I repeat, the comparison is not between Mbappe, Vinicius, and Lamine Yamal. Vinicius Jr. and Lamine Yamal, let's be honest, it's impossible to bring in N'Golo Kante and Leroy Sané from Bayern Munich. We see these players, if we bring in Saka from Arsenal, we get the players who you feel are truly competing with each other. These are the wingers who really have what it takes. The wingers who possess that skillful touch. So Vinicius Jr.'s return is very important. We also have to talk about Courtois. If it weren't for Courtois, you always see in every match 2 moments where Courtois has to be at his best. So regarding the match, guys, started off disastrously. A catastrophic approach from Real Madrid. First of all, this is Real Madrid. You felt like, what does Real Madrid want? In the first 5 minutes of the match, you couldn't understand. Real Madrid doesn't know what it wants. When they attack, their defense is wide open. And even when they defend, their defense is wide open. This was the strange part. Even the 1-2 passes were happening inside Real Madrid's penalty area in a strange way. The 1-2, 1-2. Penetrating passes from the right side, breakthroughs from the side, the left. At the start of the match, Real Madrid was being breached from all sides. And honestly, Mourinho was very smart in positioning the players between the lines. You always felt that the player who got the ball between the lines had 2 options, either to the right or to the left. And the player who, if he passes to the right, it turns into a 1-2. So the player coming from behind is always dangerous, especially in the center of the field. So the approach was disastrous. With Real Madrid, you were basically just waiting for them to concede a goal. And indeed, the first attack was dangerous, the second attack was dangerous, and the third attack resulted in a goal. Real Madrid was heading toward disaster at that point. You have to rely on transitions if you want to fall back. But right away, Real Madrid scored the equalizer, and this is the most important phase for Real Madrid. Perhaps this moment is what allowed us to see things differently. We praise Real Madrid's performance. We praise Real Madrid for qualifying. The match would have become even more complicated. Honestly, Real Madrid was heading into a dark tunnel. Because defensively, you don't concede a goal, and offensively, your attack is organized, but you still have a problem. You rely on quick breaks and transitions, and that becomes your natural approach. When your opponent takes the lead and equalizes the aggregate score, they won't give you those spaces. But immediately, Tchouaméni scored the first goal. This goal calmed Real Madrid's nerves and is proof of the existing problems. For Real Madrid, even though they scored the first goal, Benfica also threatened Real Madrid with 2 clear chances by Bento inside the penalty area in a strange way. The first one was when Arnold was caught out of position by a pass played behind him. Arnold wasn't well covered there. The second was also by Bento, and Rudiger saved it. He saved a cross ball. So, Real Madrid also wasn't stable defensively, and there were a lot of problems. And honestly, Benfica, even though Real Madrid dominated the first half, after their goal, Real Madrid seemed to relax a bit. Instead of Real Madrid being on edge, this goal allowed them to calm down a little. But honestly, Benfica wasn't affected mentally, and that's something to respect about Benfica. Despite conceding a goal, Real Madrid improved compared to the start of the match. But we still saw that Benfica was able to create chances, and that ball Courtois saved was a certain goal for Benfica. So when you come out of the first half, I wasn't convinced by the first half to say that Real Madrid was better in every aspect, but Benfica was a real opponent, and Real Madrid's defense was penetrable. When we went into the second half, honestly, I didn't see many changes from Real Madrid, except that the approach became clearer. Now, guys, the team that needs to score is Benfica, so I'm not going to entertain you. I'm not going to apply high pressure. I'm not going to play aggressively in midfield or play against Benfica in a big way, except for some confirmed pressing phases that lasted about 5 or 3 minutes at a time. But I started to rely on counterattacks when Benfica attacked. Despite the improvements that happened for Real Madrid on the pitch, of course, guys, we shouldn't forget Arda Güler as well. I mean, Arda Güler, he was also one of the stars of the match. He delivered one of his best performances. Arda Güler played one of his most beautiful games. Arda Güler, I don't know why I haven't talked about Arda Güler. Arda Güler today, guys, even though he had a defensive problem, he was always being targeted. Here's where Mourinho's intelligence showed. The player he placed, Salvio, right behind Arda Güler, exactly had a defensive issue. But offensively, he connected the lines really well. Dual confrontations, passes, he scored his goal. Honestly, he was outstanding. Arda Güler is also one of the keys to Real Madrid's victory. Honestly, I don't know how I forgot him. I thought I had already talked about Arda. I talked about Xavi, so I have to talk about Arda Güler. Camavinga had an average match in the second half. I also saw that there were 1 or 2 dangerous chances for Benfica. But Real Madrid, I was only worried about Real Madrid for one reason, that the match would go to a draw in the final minutes and Real Madrid would experience confusion because their defense is also unstable, and Benfica attacks with a kind of suicidal offense. Meaning Benfica could reach a 1-1 draw with you and take it to the 90th minute, for example, or the 93rd minute, or the 91st minute, and they say, I want to attack with the mindset that someone who is drowning has nothing to lose. A draw is enough for them, so I was worried that Real Madrid would reach this stage. And it's not that they were ahead, but Real Madrid reached that stage while leading, and Real Madrid reached it feeling comfortable with the result, not just ahead. They were comfortable with the score and everything was fine. And Vinicius Jr scored a second goal for Real, so things were positive for Real Madrid when they reached the crucial and sensitive period. Courtois is Courtois, the man of the Champions League. Courtois. Words fail to describe him. Even though Courtois has played many matches better than this and has made great saves before, today he made 2 absolutely brilliant saves, especially the one in the first half that almost brought Benfica back into the match very quickly. And Real Madrid could have entered a dark tunnel. In general, guys, Real Madrid is not at its best. Real Madrid wasn't extraordinary today. Today, Real Madrid was just their usual selves, focusing on what mattered most to them, which was not to take another hit after the Osasuna match, but the important thing was the focus that we saw today from the Real Madrid players themselves, and we need to see its impression and reflection in the league matches. Because I still believe that Real Madrid needs to achieve better positive results in the league and compete with Barcelona at the league level. Arbeloa and the lesson, you understood it. Valverde's substitution in the last match, even though he was having some discomforts or not, I don't know. Was his substitution a mistake? Was not starting Arnold a mistake? He didn't start. Let's go back to this match, but I see that these are not the keys to the game. I really liked it and was happy today about Arda Güler because at first, lately, despite how amazing Tchouaméni is, despite Tchouaméni's strength, we have a creative midfield. And as we talked about Ceballos in the last match and the issue of dealing with Ceballos, if Arda Güler continues performing like this, and I hope he keeps developing, honestly, if Arda Güler keeps improving with every match, he could reach the end of the season at a completely different level from where he started and from the level he has shown recently. As for Fran Garcia, it was an ordinary match, and I thought his substitution, it was an appropriate substitution. Asensio's injury, of course, it was a bad injury, especially considering all the injuries Real Madrid fans have been suffering from. When they saw the stretcher coming in, when it was about to come in, they knew this was a bad omen. Real Madrid fans say that the stretcher is a bad omen for us. So when they saw it, they said, God help us. They really don't like to see it. He's a player who's already out of their plans, and they don't even want to see him. But the injuries and absences forced the coach to rely on him because Asensio's injury is clearly a serious injury and it's not an easy one for Asensio. Congratulations, Real Madrid fans. I repeat, for you, the presence of Real Madrid, I was happy with Real Madrid's win and their presence in the Champions League because honestly, it makes the competition more intense. There are more top matches, more beauty. So it's possible we might see even better matches, bigger clashes if they draw Manchester City, for example, or Manchester City draws Real Madrid, or whatever the case. The important thing is that Real Madrid's presence in the tournament adds something to it. It really means a lot, guys. Please, if you don't mind, we truly need your support right now on YouTube by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, and also by leaving any comment. For example, who do you think was the star of the match? Do you agree with me that the star of the match was Nova Valverde or not? And peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings.